This is insane. A Korean ISP is accused of man-in-the-middling their own customers, installing malware on their PCs, all because they committed the high crime of torrenting. Also in your hacking news roundup, there's some serious hacker drama over at Kraken, and researchers discover a silly flaw in a line of hotel check-in kiosks. But first, absolute madness in Korea, where an ISP has been accused of hacking 600,000 of their own customers in order to prevent them from torrenting. This is all about Korean web hard services, which are unique to Korea and, well, need some explaining. They're essentially file-sharing platforms, but unlike services like Dropbox, where your files are hosted on Dropbox's servers, when you upload to a web hard service, the file is sliced up and distributed amongst many peers. So when you go to download the file, you get much faster speeds. It's very similar to torrenting, but with the oversight of the web hard company. However, Korean ISPs absolutely hate these services because they use up a hell of a lot of bandwidth, and it means the web hard service avoids paying fees for using the ISP's network. Now, this is a complex topic, but basically in Korea, the sender of web traffic, like whether that's for example YouTube or Netflix, generally has to pay ISPs in order to use their network. It's a very controversial way of doing things, and it totally goes against net neutrality. In fact, this is the reason why earlier this year, Twitch shut down their business in Korea simply down to crazy operating costs. But web hard services found a loophole in the system, because by using a peer-to-peer model, they avoid having to pay ISPs, simply down to the fact that they're not the ones sending the data, the peers are. Enter KT, Korea's largest ISP, which has a long history of trying to block and throttle peer-to-peer services. In 2015, they were accused of employing deep packet inspection to detect peer-to-peer traffic and block it in real time. Again, in 2020, they were found to be throttling peer-to-peer traffic, resulting in a court case which they actually ended up winning. But that wasn't the end of it, because during the police investigation into the throttling, they discovered one more thing. Korean media is now reporting that KT installed malware on their customers' computers in order to disrupt these web hard services. A flood of complaints hit Korean forums, with users complaining of errors when sharing files. We're very short on technical details here, though the malware apparently created strange folders or made files invisible, essentially messing with the file system, changing the path of files so that when web hard software looked for it, it just wasn't in the right place. And this was apparently widespread. Korean media says this went on for 5 months and up to 600,000 users were infected. The Cheonggi Southern Police Agency raided a KT data center, and what they found was simply astonishing. There were allegedly 3 teams involved here, one dedicated to malicious code development, the other distribution, and the third data packet interception. This third team caught my eye. I mean, what did data packet interception have to do with all this? Surely that's more so related to the throttling cases we looked at earlier. Well, according to JBTC, the Korean news agency which blew the lid on all this, KT man-in-the-middled their own users, intercepting and altering traffic coming from web hard services in order to inject and spread malicious code. If true, this would be absolutely insane, though it is kinda hard to see how it would even be possible for an ISP to inject malicious code into your traffic with encryption and hash verification so commonly used nowadays. This story is all coming through mainstream media, as such we're just really short on technical details, but I'll make sure to bring you guys an update when we know what's going on, so make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss it. Whilst KT might be hacking their customers, one company that certainly isn't is today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by ProtonPass. We all know how password managers work. They generate secure passwords and log you in faster. But what makes ProtonPass different, and is the reason I personally use and pay for it, is how it combines privacy and security with convenience. With Proton, your data is of course end-to-end encrypted. On top of that, all ProtonPass apps and browser extensions are totally open source and undergo regular security audits. Proton is also protected by insanely strict Swiss privacy laws. That means there's certainly no warrantless mass surveillance, and what little unencrypted data they do keep on you, like perhaps your account recovery email address, is only available to law enforcement in the most extreme of circumstances. But we have to recognize the limits of password managers. It's inevitable that at some point a website you use will get hacked and your data will be stolen. But even in this scenario, ProtonPass has you covered. Its dark web monitoring feature will notify you if you've been victim to a data breach, and better yet, with Proton's email alias feature, you can use a separate disposable email for each account. So if cybercriminals breach your website and grab your email address, you can simply disable it, ensuring your inbox isn't filled with spam. ProtonPass is great on privacy, but doesn't compromise on features, which is why it's my personal password manager of choice. It starts from just $1.99 per month, and migrating from your previous password manager takes just a couple minutes. So go check out ProtonPass using the link in the video description. This next story is some serious white hat hacker drama. Crypto exchange Kraken are alleging that security researchers exploited a bug in their website to withdraw $3 million in crypto and then refused to return it. This all began last week when Kraken's chief security officer posted on X explaining how they received reports through their bug bounty program alerting Kraken to an extremely critical bug that allowed users to artificially inflate their balance on the platform. You could quite literally print money into your account. The vulnerability allowed a user to initiate a deposit onto the platform and receive funds in their account without fully completing the deposit, though Kraken didn't release any technical details. Once Kraken had reviewed the report, they fixed the bug within just 47 minutes, so you might think that would be job done. Whoever reported the bug would get a hefty reward, potentially even into 7 figures, the whole incident would have made for a nice little blog post, and that would be the end of it. Well, not quite. Kraken's CSO goes on to explain that the researcher who reported the bug used the vulnerability to credit their account with $4 in crypto. No problem with that, I mean, you've got to test the bug somehow. But after which, the researcher disclosed the bug to 2 other individuals, who cumulatively withdrew almost $3 million using the exploit. And the initial bug bounty report did not fully disclose this transaction information. When Kraken asked for their $3 million back, the researchers apparently refused to agree to return any funds until Kraken provided a speculated dollar amount that the bug could have caused had they not disclosed it. This is really sus. Kraken says it's outright extortion, and from their series of events, it's kinda hard to see otherwise. Kraken says they're treating this as a criminal case and are coordinating with law enforcement agencies. However, they didn't name the researchers behind this, but they didn't have to, because later that day, cybersecurity company Certic announced that they were the ones behind all this. Certic is, as far as I'm aware, a reputable company. I'm pretty sure I've covered some of their research on this channel before. So what's going on here? Surely this is just some kind of misunderstanding. Well, thing is, Certic didn't really refute much of what Kraken's CSO said. But they did add that Kraken asked them to repay a mismatched amount of crypto in an unreasonable time even without providing repayment addresses. It's not clear what mismatched means in this case, and unreasonable time doesn't make much sense. I mean, it only takes a couple seconds to copy paste a wallet address and hit send. Them saying Kraken didn't provide an address also doesn't add up, because I mean, I'm sure Kraken would have been happy to provide them with an address if Certic was willing to return the coins. It all sounds really odd, things just aren't adding up. There are 2 main issues here. Firstly, we can see from Certic's timeline that after discovering the bug, they waited 5 whole days before even reporting it. During this time, the bug was still totally exploitable by bad actors. And secondly, they withdrew almost $3 million, which is totally unreasonable. I mean, after you've withdrawn just a single dollar, you have all the evidence you need to let Kraken know about the vulnerability. Someone asked Certic about this, and they responded. The real question should be why Kraken's in-depth defense system failed to detect so many test transactions. This is indeed what we were testing. The replies say it all. This just doesn't make any sense. For experienced security professionals at a supposedly reputable company to venture outside of their bug hunter limits and start pulling stunts like this is just really strange, and I've struggled to find anyone defending Certic's actions. So whilst I like to try and give a balanced perspective on this channel, in this case I'm really struggling. To make matters worse, someone replied in the comments alleging that Certic had sent some of that $3 million to Tornado Cash. Tornado Cash is a crypto mixer service that was sanctioned by the US a couple years back, because it was apparently used by North Koreans to launder $500 million in stolen crypto. If you're based in the US, like Certic is, sending even a single dollar to Tornado Cash is very, very illegal. So why experienced researchers at Certic would do just that, again, makes no sense. And Certic hasn't responded to this. All this drama though was very short-lived, because the day after this all became public, the Certic researchers did actually return the coins, minus whatever was lost to fees. Since this update, there's been radio silence from the 2 parties, so whilst this all seems to be resolved, I guess, it doesn't look like anyone's going to forget Certic's shenanigans anytime soon. A vulnerability in a hotel self-check-in kiosk could have allowed attackers access to the personal information of guests and even given them the ability to create arbitrary room keys. This is coming from researchers at Pentagrid, who discovered one of these things in a small hotel. It's essentially the hotel equivalent of a McDonald's self-service machine. You can use it to pay for a room and check in. The thing is able to scan your passport to confirm your identity, and it'll even dispense your room's keycard, making for a truly human-free check-in experience. What could go wrong, I hear you ask? Well, the researchers found that the software on this thing is embarrassingly easy to crash. When asked to enter your name, a single quote character is all that's needed to send the machine into an unresponsive state. How this passed testing, who knows? But on its own, this is only a little amusing. It's not at all uncommon. I mean, we've all seen crashed ATMs, and just the other day, a Mackey's self-service machine crashed on me when I was trying to order a Big Mac. But what makes this different though, and potentially a much bigger deal, is that the customer is given the option to close the program, which exposes the system's underlying Windows desktop. And according to the researchers, this could be very useful for an attacker thanks to the sheer amount of customer information stored directly on the device. We're talking personal information, reservations, invoices, and on top of that, since provisioning keycards is implemented directly in these terminals, the researchers claim it's possible to grab keycards created for other rooms, though the White Hats didn't demonstrate a proof of concept of that. The researchers did, however, try to give the company behind the kiosks, Ariane Systems, a heads up. However, as you might be able to tell by the length of the disclosure timeline, that didn't really go to plan. Each time they sent an email, it just went ignored, but eventually the company did respond, though after a brief back and forth, the vendor just started ghosting them again, and Pentagrid published their report anyways. You would have expected at least a thank you. I mean, before we even get to the potential malicious use of this bug, you can imagine how inconvenient it would be for anyone with an Irish surname to be denied check-in, especially given these things are meant to be used when no hotel staff are around to check people in the old-fashioned way. Regardless, the bug has apparently been fixed, but again, the software vendor hasn't been very forthcoming with which version the patch was included in, so I guess you've just got to find out with a bit of trial and error. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.